All right, I'm showing 10:31, so we are going to go ahead and kick this off and get started, even if people continue to join. So first off, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this Friday. We appreciate you being here. It will be our second Medicaid Mini Credentialing 101. I'm Jessica Emmerich, your Medicaid mentor and the Dental Medicaid Facilitator with the Missouri Coalition for Oral Health. We've partnered with Missouri Dental Association and MoHealthNet to provide enrollment, credentialing, and billing support to dental providers. MCOH is a 501c3 advocacy organization. We're focused on policy and systems change to increase access to oral health services for all Missourians. You can learn more about MCOH and other upcoming events by visiting our website, Facebook page, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We have about 130 providers registered for this mini series, and about half of those are currently credentialed providers and the other half are considering credentialing. So no matter where you're at in the process, we are here to meet you where you are and support you through the process. Today, we're going to walk through the MoHealthNet application process and make sure you have everything you need to begin. Our session is being recorded and will be available to you afterwards. During the webinar, attendees will be muted, but you can submit your questions in the chat or question and answer box. Both of those are at the bottom of your screen, and we'll answer all those questions at the end. So we're going to get right to the presentation, so we have plenty of time for questions at the end. So let's get started. Okay. So last time we talked about MoHealthNet, your practice, your way. What does it mean? So now maybe you're to the point where you're considering, well, what's the application process like? What do I need to do to be a MoHealthNet provider? So today I would like to walk you through kind of the application process and give you some guidance, some tips and tricks to make it go a lot smoother for you. So I have the instructions steps here, but I'm also going to walk you through it on the actual page. So we went to mmac.mo.gov. This is the Missouri Medicaid Audit Compliance site. We're going to click on Enroll as a Provider over here on the side. Okay, then about down here at the bottom it says Apply to be a Missouri Medicaid Provider. Okay, so most providers can get to this page, and I know that a lot of providers get to this page and they just scroll to the bottom real quick and click Continue to get on with the process. What I want to tell you is that this page has a lot of really good information if you are new to the enrollment process. It has contact information for Missouri Medicaid Audit Compliance Provider enrollment. It tells you where you need to fax documents. It tells you what you need to send them. So please read through this page and take note of some of these things. It'll help make the process a lot smoother for you, and it will answer a lot of the questions right off the bat. So one thing I want to point out is that when you do your application, there will be documents that you have to either fax or mail to provider enrollment for them to process your application. You can't just do the application online and consider it done and go on, because it will just sit out there in the queue and they will not be able to pull it in and actually process that application. So please read through this. There are a lot of good tips from them and how to contact them if you have any questions. If you have any issues with the application or questions, there's a help desk number here that you can call and they can help walk you through that. Okay, so please make sure you take time to read through this. Once you've done that, you'll continue here at the bottom. You want to do a new provider enrollment application. You'll see you can retrieve a draft, so you can, if you start the process and something comes up, you get busy like we all do. If you need to come back to it, you absolutely can. That would be the second one. But right now, we're going to do a new provider application. Dental providers, we're going to choose the dentist application. Then you'll go through and you'll fill all this out. So I also wanted to share with you this link right here, MoHealthNet enrollment presentation. 2 weeks ago, Missouri Medicaid Audit and Compliance and MoHealthNet did a presentation for the Missouri Coalition for Oral Health that walked providers through the credentialing process. And this presentation will spell out what type of provider are you and what do you need to do. So what I've just showed you is just a general overview for dental providers, But say you are with a clinic and the clinic's not enrolled and there's a few other providers and you're the only one who wants to take Medicaid. Process may be a little slightly different. Say you have a private practice and you want to enroll your whole practice and yourself. Maybe you have multiple locations. So this presentation right here, this link, it's also on the Missouri Coalition for Oral Health website. It will walk you through what is required for the type of provider you are, for you specifically. So that would take up too much time for me to try to dive into that today, but I did want to make this resource available. I'm also going to make it a link on the recap email so you can get directly to that. It's very beneficial. And if you have any questions about your application as you go through it, or what's required for you, what does your practice need, you will reach out to that MAC provider enrollment email address, which we'll make available again at the end of the presentation. Okay. So we'll dive back into here. Okay, so you will go through that enrollment process online. So here's kind of your checklist. You submitted your application online. Don't forget that you also need to mail and fax the supporting documents. When you're done with your application, on the last page there, you will have a confirmation number and it will ask for a signature. You have to print that page out with the confirmation number and you have to sign that page. And that's what you will put with your other documents that you need to send in. Copy of your provider's license, participation agreement, business organization structure, bank information. Without that signature page, they cannot start processing your application because they need that confirmation number. You can get back to it if you accidentally close out of it, but they cannot start doing your application without that page. So I really want to let providers know, because once they receive that signature page, they'll have it processed. They're running about 2 weeks right now. They like to say 2 to 3 weeks, depending on holidays, how they fall, but they've been really great right now, getting most of those processed within 2 weeks. As soon as they receive all the documents, they can't start it until they have everything they need. So they highly recommend you fax it. This is a dedicated line just for provider enrollment. Anything else into this, they disregard. This is only for these documents that you're faxing in. You can either fax them, or if you really want to, you can mail them. If you mail them, it will take a little longer because you have to factor in the time for the mail to get there. Get routed where it needs to go. So it does take a little longer to mail, but it is an option. If your practice is brand new to Medicaid, the practice is not enrolled, you are not enrolled, then you will probably more than likely need to enroll your group NPI at the same time as you do your individual. So a good way to think of it, your group NPI needs to be enrolled because that's your place of service. And then your individual NPI also needs to be enrolled because that's the provider. They have to have both of those NPI numbers on file for you to bill and everything to go smoothly. Again, if you have questions, reach out to MAC Provider Enrollment and they will tell you exactly what your practice needs to do. Another thing I wanted to share with you guys is that providers can start enrolling with the managed care plans as soon as you click submit on that MAC application. So the process used to be that you'd have to enroll with MoHealthNet, and then once you got approval, then you could start enrollment with the managed care plans. They have changed that because we need dental providers. The state knows that, and we're trying to make this a better process for our providers. So as soon as you click submit on that application for MoHealthNet, you can start credentialing with the managed care plans. The reason for that is MoHealthNet takes about 2 to 3 weeks for their applications. The managed care plans take around 45 days to 60 days, depending on which plan it is. So because MoHealthNet is so much quicker, they will have their information to the health plan way before they need it because their process takes longer. Another thing I wanted to share with you is that Missouri Medicaid Audit Compliant, MoHealthNet, they can backdate your enrollment up to a year. So say you see a Medicaid patient today, and then next week you decide we're going to go ahead, we're not going to mess with the, we want to get paid for this. We've been thinking about it, we want to get paid. You can go ahead and submit your application and then just let them know that you saw a patient this week and they can backdate your coverage, your enrollment to cover that so that you can get paid for that. This is the managed care contact information for credentialing. I'm not going to go into each plan and their credentialing process because they are all slightly different. They are all their own insurance companies. They can do their own process. I can tell you that MoHealthNet is working with the managed care plans to try to make it a simpler process. They're working on trying to be able to share that information to make this easier. But you do have the options of which managed care plans you would like to participate with and which ones you'd like to credential with. From my experience, they've all been very responsive to this contact information that they've provided. But if you have any issues, you can always reach out to me or MoHealthNet and we can help you with that process and help smooth things over if needed. The managed care plans can backdate your credentialing enrollment to the date that the application is completed. So if you start your application today and you get everything sent in by Tuesday, yes, it could take 45 to 60 days for them to complete your credentialing, but they can backdate it to the date that they received everything. So I know that that's a little longer process than most providers like to see, but they're willing to still cover those dates that they were working on processing the application. So again, here is my contact information. If you have any issues with your enrollment or you've done your application and you just haven't heard anything back, you can follow up with the Medicaid Provider enrollment email address to check the status. If you email that Medicaid.provider enrollment email address, be sure to include your MPI. They cannot do anything with your tax ID number. They cannot look you up by your name. You have to include your MPI. That's how they process everything. They can give you the enrollment status. They can tell you if they're missing documentations. So what I recommend to providers is that once you have submitted everything, once you have faxed the documents, you think you have everything turned in that you need to, wait 2 days and then email them to make sure that they have everything that they need and that they received your fax. I know some providers will fax it off and then just wait because they're trying not to be a burden, or we're all busy, we know that. But I recommend after 2 days to just follow up just to make sure they have all the information, because we don't want your application sitting out there in limbo because one of the fax pages wasn't clear. They couldn't read something on one of the pages, or you forgot to send something, or you forgot to sign something. So they can, most of the time, they will not email you first to tell you that. Usually you have to contact them because, like I said, until they've received everything completed, they can't even pull your application over. So you need to follow up and make sure that they have everything they need, that it's legible, that you're good to go, so that your application's not sitting out there waiting. So today was kind of a brief presentation. We wanted to keep it fairly simple, but provide a lot of resources. Again, I'm going to provide all this information with the recap email that will go out Tuesday of next week. It might be Wednesday because of the holiday, but our goal is to send those out on Tuesdays. So I want to go ahead and hear, what kind of questions do you have? What has your experience been like? What do you need to know about the enrollment process to make this work better for you? So go ahead and put your questions in the chat or the Q&A. Think about what you would need to know. If there's anything you want me to go back to, let me see, I'm going to go back to, I feel like this is a very good resource for our providers that kind of outlines. So if you have any questions about this, these forms can all be found on the MMAC website, or when you're doing your application, those should all be available. So I will show. So while we're waiting for questions, I'm going to go back over here to the mmac.mo.gov website, and I'm going to show you where you can find all of these forms that I've listed that you're going to need. So on this page where we clicked on Apply to be a Provider, over here under Enrolling Providers, New Providers. And it will think about it, and then it'll bring up all their forms that you might possibly need to do, application and forms. But keep in mind, this is a general page, so you are not going to need everything on here. But if you need the business organization structure, here it is. If you need the EFT information, it's here. And that presentation that I referenced earlier that MAC gave a couple weeks ago, it will cover how to fill out these forms. It would take me too much time today to dive in and cover all of those, but that resource is available that walks you through exactly what is needed for dental providers. Okay, there was a question about having a revalidation training. Right now, we don't have a revalidation training planned, but it is something we could do. So when it's time to revalidate, Missouri Medicaid Audit and Compliance will send an email about 8 months out from the date you need to revalidate. And then about 6 months out, they will send you an actual letter in the mail. And you will also be able to see your reevaluation date in EmoMed. So in MoHealthNet, in their portal, you'll be able to see that your revalidation date is coming up. And they will list out everything that they need. It's a much quicker process for the revalidation. They're just making sure your information is up to date and everything is still current. So if there's interest in that, we can do a training on that. But that is a pretty short process and should be fairly simple. They have their own email address, their own contact numbers for those processes, so we can share that information if needed. Okay, there was a question that says, are you able to email the recording of last week's presentation? So yes, so if you registered for the mini series, you should have received a recording of last week's session, the Your Practice Your Way. If you did not, we can send that to you again. I know some people may have missed the first one, didn't get registered until later. We will send that out again if we need to. Again, it was a lot of good information. We're happy to share that to any providers who need it. Okay, what other questions do we have? So if you have any other questions, go ahead and put those in the chat or the Q&A. I know that I kind of went through this information somewhat fast, and sometimes you just need to dive into the application and then you have your questions. So if that happens and you would like to reach out to me, I am more than happy to assist with the enrollment process. Or if you want to reach out to MAC Provider Enrollment, they are usually very responsive. They will respond to all emails within 48 hours. Most of them are much quicker than that, but if there's something that you're just having trouble with or getting stuck or not understanding, please feel free to reach out to me and I can definitely help with that process. For the managed care providers, their information is here. I believe they all have an online application that you can complete. I do not have information on specifics for what they require, but we did do some trainings with them in the past few weeks. So those resources are available on our website. I will provide a link to those in the recap page as well if you're interested or need more information about the managed care plan credentialing process. Okay, do we have any other questions? Anything I can answer right now? Any concerns you might have? Anything about the enrollment process that I can go ahead and address for you to help make this an easier process? Again, if you are having the question, there are probably other providers with that same question. Like I said, we have about 130 providers enrolled for these webinars, and about half of those are already credentialed and some of them are not. So providers have common questions, and let me know what those are so we can help address those. We are working with Missouri Provider Enrollment to make it a simpler process. Like I said, to make sure we are working on a form that would cover MoHealthNet and the managed care plans. As with anything with the state, it will take some time, so please do not hold off on your enrollment waiting for that. But we are trying to make that a better process for providers and make it a little simpler. Okay, well, I'm not seeing very many question and answers coming in. If you think of something afterwards and you would like to follow up with me, please feel free to do that. Reach out to me on my cell phone, call, text, send me an email, whatever is easiest for you, whatever is convenient. I know we're coming up on a holiday weekend. So I am going to give one last call for any question and answers. Anything you'd like to discuss or anything like you would like me to cover or show you where it's at, or any other information you might need? Again, we'll send out this recording and the slide deck and all the resources that we've mentioned. Those will all be going out next week, hopefully Tuesday, possibly Wednesday if you don't see it Tuesday. Again, it is a holiday weekend. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, then we'll go ahead and we'll call it a Friday. Enjoy your holiday weekend. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. Feel free to share these with other providers who may be interested. Let them know to register so they can participate in the next ones. Let's see, our next one is it looks like we get a week off. Our next one will be June 9th. So share with your providers. Enjoy your long weekend, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Jessica.